So I'm finally going to get stuck back into this car. It's been 3 weeks stuck around with this car because every time I drive it something goes wrong and I end up spending the whole week working on it, maintenance, all that sort of stuff. So I'm getting back into this thing, and it's been like 3 weeks and I've done next to nothing, so except buy parts for it. So I'm going to get stuck into it and see how much work we can get done in a week. So this is the board I got up here. This is pretty much what I've spent on it so far. So I've got a 308 motor for $1,000, which I'm actually going to have to change that to 800 because I sold the heads and intake off that motor for $200. I also bought VN heads, which I haven't put up there, for $500. So I got VN heads, cam kit, a few little things here and there. Super duper China intake manifold, but I'm not here for horsepower, so I'm really just trying to keep this thing as kind of cheap as I can. Gearbox, tail shaft, so I've got a turbo 400, got a tail shaft, I've got power steering, GDS dash pad with no cracks, and this is literally all I spent on paint and panel, just some rip discs, and bought some all you need, and I've already got some epoxy up in the shed. So I've bare metal the front apron. I literally just welded up. There's 2 little holes drilled up the top here, so I just welded them up. There's 2 on the other side, weld those up. Little crack down there, just welded up. Gone over it with wire wheel in the nooks and crannies, these sort of areas. So I've only just got a sand up under there. That's a lot of dirt under there. It's not rust, it's just dirt. So I'm going to just sand the inside. The guards, I've just bare metal the outside. I just drilled a hole where the factory badge goes, and I'll just drill the other 2 afterwards. And I haven't bare metal the inside. I'm not going full OCD, so but I'll give the inside a sand. So now I'm pretty much going to get that and them 2 guards in epoxy today or this afternoon. It's a fairly nice sunny day, so I'm going to do them 2, that. Tomorrow I'll probably get stuck into the bonnet and the door and go from there. And that's the 308 over there, poor tight old 308. So I just got the 2 guards done. Went over at the strip disc again because they had some light service rust because I bare metaled them over 2 weeks ago. So the strip disc and then 200 grit sandpaper. So I'm going to go get these, put these up in the garden shed up the back there and get some primer on them. Alright, so got my mask. Just wipe these down, wax and grease remover. Mixed up. I have leftover Raptor epoxy, so I've just mixed that up in the cup and chuck it in the spray gun and get it on. Alright, so the guards are in. Primer. The needle was stuck open on the gun when I was using it, so it made a bit of a mess on the floor, but I managed to get everything coated, so which is good. Couldn't do the front apron because my workspace is quite small, as you can see, so I'm gonna have to do that separately tomorrow. But I'll let these dry overnight, move them in the shed, do the front apron. I might do the front apron and the bonnet, the front apron and the door. I'll try to do 2 things at a time just to minimize wastage of the primer. So the next stage will be is get the other stuff done, and then I'll probably do some light filler work on the areas where they've been welded and that sort of thing. And I've got some all you need spray primer, high build, I'll be putting over the guards to get them nice and straight. So I'll be back tomorrow. Alright, so new day. Those turned out really good. I've decided to do the bonnet today. I just noticed that one of the hinges was really stiff on this side, and it's actually bent the bonnet from about here back. So just from about this area here, when these hinges get really stiff and you try and slam the bonnet, it ends up bending the bonnet. And this one here is a little bit bent just from there back. It's very minor. The other side's fine. You'll probably see it better from over here. You can pretty much see how it starts to curve down at the back corner there. And on the underside here, I'll lift it up. Bloody heavy, this thing. Ugh. So right there you can see that little divot right there. That's pretty much where it's started to bend, in that spot right there. So so to straighten that out, never done this before, but I'm going to try and put something on there and pull on it upright, or potentially I might even install these back on the car. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Do some thinking and I'll get back to you. Alright, so this is my concoction idea that I've just made up, which is I just cut the old hinge and welded a bit of pipe onto it and just hitting here with a hammer while holding the bonnet up here so it doesn't damage the skin. I don't think that works at all, but I'm going to unbolt it and put it back on the car, see if it did anything. If it didn't, I think I might have to put a little cut in here with a grinder just to help it do the bend a little bit, and just weld it back up. Might be an easier option anyway, but I'll try it on and I'll see how I go. Well, it's a decent improvement how that was, just beat it with a hammer, so it's pretty good. And considering it's not a show car, I'm going to settle for that. So little repair is complete. Had to stuff a hinge to do it, but I've got 2 spare hinges anyway, so I don't really care. So I'm going to get stuck in his bonnet, just sanding and whatever, and get some primer on. Alright, so just busted out some 220 grit sandpaper and went over the whole underside of the bonnet. I did use a strip disc along the edges here because it was surface rust. There's still a little bit of surface rust here, but the epoxy will seal that in anyway. So top side's done. I'm going to flip it over and clean up all the paint stripper and old sort of paint on the underside. I mean the top side, sorry. And get it up in the garden shed and get some epoxy on it. Top side of the bonnet, just done this side and starting on the other side. And this is some rust pitting from surface rust from the top side, which I'm just going to have to fill in with some bog fill when I get some epoxy on it, which sucks, but can't really do much about it. The bonnet is really straight, so it's a good bonnet. No actual rust, just had some surface rust from where it was bare metal and left. So I'll get stuck into this and go from there. Alright, so I got the bonnet hanging up. It's a lot easier painting bonnets laying down, but I want to do both sides of this thing in one go, so just mixed up like 600 mils of epoxy. Hopefully that will do the bonnet and this front with any luck. So everything's pretty much sanded and everything, and well, that's not a bit down there. Everything's sanded and stuff, and yeah, ready to go. So I'm going to chuck this stuff on and we'll see how they turn out. Alright, I had to paint that one outside. Painted this one in here. Got bulk orange peel. But it does not matter. Very orange peely. Overall, got them both done. And next up's going to be the left door. And get the left door done and then start bare metal and 3 more doors and then the body. And then I've got everything in epoxy and then I can really move on. Alright, I had a rest day and now I'm back into it again. So all that stuff turned out really good. There is lots of orange peel, but I've got to sand it anyway, so I'm not really too worried. That Raptor epoxy that I used, for some reason it has just always come out kind of like that. If you put it on thicker, it generally comes out a lot better, but it's still very orange peeling. I don't know, I'm just not a huge fan of it really. Probably won't buy it again. So I'm gonna hopefully by the end of the day get this door, get that door painted, or in primer, sorry, and the other door out here. I'd like to get 2 doors done today. So this other one is, the top's pretty much been in bare metal. Bottom half's had some repair done. So you can see bog fill here, here, little bog fill here, and there's a slight ding here where you can, if you look along there, you can see that ding. So I'll just bend that back up. So I'm gonna just use the strip disc on this and get rid of all this and see how it looks. Well, so I found that there's been bog over rust holes, so I'm not overly impressed with this door anymore. So I'm going to put it aside for now, because I've probably got a better one at the farm that I can use, rather than, because this one is literally going to need a whole section across the bottom welded in, and it's obviously not very straight because it's also got bog up here, and if I've got a better one, I'm more than happy to just use that. But that has kind of concerned me a little bit now, because I'm kind of worried that the rest of the car might have this too. I did actually just feel up in here and can feel some MIG wire. So I'm hoping this shell of this car actually isn't too bad. Doesn't look too bad though. Doesn't look like there's been any bog fill up here. And roof rust is one thing I really hate. Or down here. So pretty sure these rear doors were replaced too, so these doors were off another car. So these doors should actually be pretty good. I might go back to just painting that door, or getting that door primed. I might actually get stuck into these rear doors actually, while I've got time. See how they are. Once I get them done, I can probably pull the stuff out of the car, put it to the side. It's going to make a mess doing this. I'm not doing it in here. I'm going to have to like pull, maybe swap the ute back into here, or lift the car up, put the ute under the car and push this in there and mask up all the shed, and try and get the paint off the rear quarters and the roof on this and see how the car actually is. But I'll get stuck into these now, I think, and we'll go from there. Jeez, I keep finding surprises. So this one, obviously on the outside here, you can tell it's got some bog in there. And then on the inside, you can see those little bits sticking in. It's like bog fill. That's spider legs. Let's go up under here. Holes have been drilled and some bog running in. So that door is probably not going to be that great. So I do have one left door left at the farm, only one though, if that's any good. So I might change that door too. This door looks alright, so I'm going to bare metal this one, and fingers crossed I get lucky with this one. Well, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. So this door's alright at least. I'm just going to put paint stripper on to get rid of the rest. I notice looks like it's had 2-pack put over the old acrylic paint. So I didn't want to go too deep with that thing into this, because I know how easily that can, as soon as it starts mushing the acrylic around, it starts generating a lot of heat, and then it can easily warp the door. So I'm just going to put some paint stripper on, and yeah, there's a little ding, had some bog fill, pretty much there was all sorts of stuff up here, but there was a ding there and one there, but they're both small. So no rust in this door. It's a good door, and I'd like to I'm covered in stuff. Only reason I don't really want to use rusty doors, it just makes the job harder. So I'm just trying to make this car as easy as I can. So if I've got to start doing rust repairs, then I'm just going backwards. So I don't want to do rust repairs. I hate rust repairs. I'll do the bare minimum. And if I don't have a panel at the farm, then I'll do the rust repairs. But if I got one there that's good, better, I'm going to use it. So I know I definitely got a better door, because that door looks like it's pretty messed up. And since I'm changing so many panels, I might actually have to mock the car up. So I might have to put all these panels. I'll get everything in epoxy first, but I might have to get everything on the car and just double check that all the gaps are going to be okay, because I'm changing a lot of panels and stuff now. I just want to make sure the gaps are going to be fine, just so that, you know, like it doesn't look too off. I'm not that OCD on it, but I just want to make sure it's right. So I'm going to put paint stripper on that door, and at least I'll get that door done and that one. I'm going to get 2 doors done at least, and yeah, I'm going to go down to the farm and try and get 2 better doors for those. And I might try and get this car into that shed to, fingers crossed the body on this car is not that bad. But if it is, I'm just going to have to do rust repairs for it, because I don't have a better spare one. So I'll just make do with what I got. It's pretty cool watching the paint stripper in the sun. You can actually see it like percolating, bubbling away. So I just put it on. This is the second scrape actually. I just did one. Doing this one. Just letting it sit for like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Can't let it sit for too long because the sun will evaporate it all. So about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to start scraping. So those that are interested, that's the second scrape attempt. So I'm now going to put more on and do another scrape. So when there's acrylic paint and the factory primer, that's the original paint there. It's just really hard to get off a paint stripper. You got to really dig in there, and you got to scrape really hard. So I'm just going to do another layer, and I reckon I'll get the majority off, and then the rest I'll just use the strip disc on the grinder to tackle it. So the idea is, with the paint stripper, is just get as much as you can off, and I just run over it with that. Doesn't generate much heat in the panel at all once you got 99% of the stuff off, and don't need to worry about warping panels. I've actually warped many panels in the past, just not knowing, using those strip discs, just chewing away at the acrylic paint, and all it does is kind of mush it around, clogs the disc up. It ends up just putting way too much heat in the panel, and by the time it's done, you look down it and it'll just be like this, wavy. So it pretty much just ends up ruining perfectly good doors, panels, bonnets, everything. So that's why I do like this. I use a paint stripper, and then I go to that. The less heat you get in the panel, the better. Alright, that's all done now. Pretty much just bare metaled the whole top side. Actually, I see what I'm doing there. and down there. So I'll do that in a minute with the wire brush wheel. But overall it's done, and then I'll just go over the other door that I paint stripped, do the same, and then I'll sand both of them on the inside here. Bit of paint stripper there. I'll go over, sand all the insides with sandpaper, just go over these with a rough sand, and get these in epoxy, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so I just welded up the little holes I had to weld up. Hopefully that's enough penetration for the OCD welders out there that say that I can't weld, even though my diff hasn't fallen out the back of my car. And this door is no good, so it is usable, but I'm going to try and not use it if I can. So it had about probably solid 8mm of bog built up around here. It just looks like it's been hit right here and it's just been pulled back out. I suppose I could technically use it if I had to, but I'd just rather not, because there's even more filler down here. So I'm going to try and, I know I've got a better door at the farm, so I'm not going to use that. And same with that other door, I'd have to do a rust repair section at the bottom, so I'll try to see if I got a better one. This door is very straight though, so if it comes to it I don't really mind getting a rust repair section, but if I got a better one it's just easier. So these two doors are really good shape. It always seems to be the doors on the left side of the cars that always get damaged. The right side's usually pretty sweet. So I'm just gonna grind off this bit of weld I just did. Use the 220 grit sandpaper, go around the insides, clean them up with wax and grease remover, and I'll do the epoxy process. And then it's literally 2 doors and then the shell to go. Alright, so the game plan here is I'm going to epoxy this now, just let it dry for like a minute or so, really get no time to dry. Then I'm going to go hang it up my other shed, and then I'm going to bring my other door in and paint it, because I just can't paint 2 doors at a time in this shed, it's too small. So I'm going to do one, move to the other shed, and then do the other one. I just use my wax and grease remover. So it is mint, ready to go. I'll give it a quick blow over with this. Always normally just run over it like that, just to get any fluff off the panel. And gonna mix up the Raptor stuff. And the only reason I'm using this is because I got it. Otherwise, I would have went and bought some other stuff. But because I got it, I'm using it. So I'm gonna mix some more of this up and get it on and get stuff happening. Well, I got them both done. Here's the back door. It's like the paint, I don't know, possibly needed thinners or something to thin it out. It was going on really thick. So I'm assuming that's why it's got the bulk orange peel. Had to move my ride-on back a bit further because it started getting overspray on it. Very good, very good. Hopefully got a spray painter on here. This is the other door, mind you. I can explain why the hell the epoxy goes on like this with all these tiny little dots. I think it just needs thinners and it's just going on too thick. That's why it's doing it. But hopefully there's someone out there with a bit more knowledge of me with spray painting that can let me know, and I can let you know, because I don't bloody know. Actually just put that on Facebook and got about 10 different replies within 2 minutes. So a lot of people saying that it's wax in the paint or whatever, but I literally just wiped it down wax and grease remover with a rag before putting the paint on, so it can't be that. And then someone said it could be the solvent trying to dry underneath the paint, so because it can't escape, it's pretty much making little pinholes. And I reckon that dude's on the money. So I'm going to run with that, because it sure as hell ain't wax or silicone because I literally just wiped it down beforehand. So it is solvent. Trying to get through the thick paint because I put so much on to dry. So that's it. We're running with that one. Well, today I got the car outside and had a look where the bog fill was on the car. So this must have had a vinyl roof at some point because it's got these things welded up across here where there's a little thing running across there. It's just had a little section welded in here, so there was bog fill down here and some up here too, and it's sunken in a little bit. So obviously I'm going to have to redo all that sort of stuff, the bog work anyway, because once it's left like that it gets surface rust under it, so it's all got to come off and get redone. And a little section down there, it is really good rust wise. Had another one welded in there. Currently just using paint stripper on the roof, removing this edge primer, which is actually coming off really good. So I'm just putting the paint stripper on, scraping it and just pouring it off the back into the bucket, and then I'm just using thinners and rags and rubbing the rest off, and it's coming out mint. Over this side is similar. I just had this area here, there's a little bit of filler. I think there was a little ding up here because there was some filler up here too, so must be a little ding there. And here has one rust hole there. It also has that, which isn't overly too bad to fix, so it's in a fairly decent spot, and that's literally going to rust through right there, so I'll have to try and weld that up. And there's two little tiny holes here. Nothing down here. I think there's a dot there. Down the bottom here is really good, so that's it. There's no rust up the front here. Like a little bit over here in the corner, but none actually on the sill panels. So I reckon I'll tomorrow I'll have a good crack at getting rid of all this epoxy off this thing. Remove the rest of the stuff inside of it, and I'll probably push it in that shed and try and get some epoxy on the body of this thing. So once I get that done, I'm now going to mount all the panels just to do the gaps. I wasn't originally going to do it, but since there's areas that are kind of critical, I've got to try and put the doors on to make sure there's not going to be they're not going to be way off, so which I'll show you guys in another video. But so I'm going to get this in epoxy, and then I'll mount the front end on it, the doors, and just make sure everything's going to line up alright, and then we'll go from there. That'll be in another video. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this one up here, and the next video is going to have when I get this thing bare metal epoxied, rest of the panels on, and yeah, so it's Friday now, so I'll try and get another video up next Friday. So, and hopefully next Friday I'll have the whole thing painted, not painted, primed together. I wish it was painted. It'll take a little bit longer than that, but once it's all together, it really won't take me long. Like I should be able to paint a panel a day sort of thing, so it'll move along fairly quickly. Yeah, so I'll try going up next Friday. So that's it. So far it's still very budget, and we're looking good.